Here's what you need to know about your least favorite zombie game you've never played. 2018's Metal Gear Survive is an open-world survival game that reuses the world and core systems of 2015's Metal Gear Solid 5 to serve an entirely different style of gameplay. It's the first and only new game since the controversial firing of series creator and all-round super pervert Hideo Kojima, which is why everyone decided to abstain from it, but also why none of the characters here are fully naked. The map itself is moderately changed, reflecting an apocalypse whose aftermath the story takes place in, specifically, as you uncover in a twist towards the end, 200 years after, making this the furthest into the future the series has ever taken us. Key landmarks and infrastructure from the original game are found scattered in varying states of decay, and much of the once familiar map is now covered in a thick dust that serves as the game's primary threat. As is expected for a survival game, construction and crafting play key parts in it too. An apt comparison, if we had to make one, would be to how the Zelda series often follows up its major titles with sequels that reuse existing assets but with a twist. In particular, the way Survive places dungeons and threats where there didn't used to be reminds me a lot of how Tears of the Kingdom treated Hyrule's overworld. Another apt comparison is of course to Death Stranding. To make a long story short... Do you hear that? Anyway, both games share a lot in common. I'm not the first to notice this, but hey, we're almost halfway through the decade, so it might be the last. There's been speculation as to whether or not Kojima's pompous dismissal of any involvement at all was true, especially given some suspicious past comments about the things he'd want to do with zombies if ever he got the chance, and of course the eventual similarities between Survive and his first solo project. But sadly, the inter-org politics are such that nobody on either side is willing to talk about it, so let's leave it at that. My read is that video games take a lot of time to make and are collaborative efforts. As much as Kojima's reached this auteur status, he's not writing either the scripts or the code for these things alone. The ideas floating around for themes and systems that eventually found themselves in Death Stranding were most likely shared before the breakup. Then following the split, each team kind of built their own interpretation with what resources they had. Kojima took his designer with him, which is why all of the characters and costumes look sharp as hell in Death Stranding, whereas best I can pull off to Survive is Nigel Thornberry. Konami still had Silent Hill talent on their side, giving the world and its creatures a unique, otherworldly terror, while Death Stranding's monsters look like sins I've committed in gas station toilets.